All right. Welcome to another edition of Shabbat Lounge. This is Matt
and Jake here,
coming to you with another Torah portion. And so this week's is what, Jake?
This is Kedoshim, which is Holy Ones. This is week 30.
And this comes out of Leviticus 19:20. And once again, we appreciate you stopping by, and we encourage you to read these texts for yourself. We just try to go through this quick. We're kind of assuming that you either have read through this or you're about to read through it, and we just encourage you to continue to study it out and join. There are millions of people around the world doing this and reading this same Torah portion at the same time as we are now.
Right.
Which is amazing to think about all these people doing the same thing.
Right.
And I believe there's a lot of power in that.
I agree.
So here we go. We'll go right into it. Leviticus. Jake, would you say there's some repeat in Leviticus?
Yes.
And so why do you think that is? Why do we see this repeat? What's the point of that?
If anyone has gone through the Torah portions more than once, you can see the value of the repeat. It helps it stick in your mind. It helps emphasize certain things. Usually if Yah's telling them more than once, then he really wants them to remember it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a big deal. And so
also,
2
or 3 witnesses.
Yeah, very good.
Establish a matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have this New Testament concept written here. Why don't you explain what this is?
Yeah, so we've heard a lot about, man, Jake, all you got to do is love God, love people, you're good. So you've heard a lot of that, haven't you?
Oh, so much.
So, yes.
Especially with that nice accent.
Yes. I don't know who I was, but I was something.
Everyone I've talked to, for sure.
Yes, everyone, all in one.
So, yeah,
do you see this?
That's the thing. That's what Yeshua.
That's all you got to do is what they say.
Says.
Yep. So in this portion, you see basically the 10 Commandments reloaded. So what are they? These aren't the 10 Commandments necessarily in order. There's more than 10 here. And did we say every one listed? Possibly not, but quite a few of these we wrote down, and we're going to talk about them just for a minute.
Right. And many you'll remember from the first time the 10 Commandments were given.
Just recently.
So obey your parents.
Guard the Shabbat, or the Sabbath.
Don't do the idols thing.
No pagan rituals, like cutting these funny things in your hair doesn't mean you can't shave your beard, because there are other scriptures where you had to shave because of different things. So it wasn't that, but it was these weird pagan things where they carved some designs or something like that in their hair.
Right. And this was having to do with the dead. It was an honoring of the dead.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So take care of the poor.
Don't steal.
Don't lie.
And don't profane his name. So
a lot of those sound familiar.
Yep. And then there's this one, basically, I didn't know how to paraphrase it other than I said, be nice to the blind and deaf people. It's not cool to play tricks on them and watch them suffer.
Right.
So, and then when you read that, it's almost kind of like, people did that? Maybe? I don't know. But it does kind of make you think people found amusement in it or something. So, pretty sick.
Yeah, I think it would be, today we're all about being inclusive, right? And now, but I think it's not talking about be inclusive the way that they're trying to spout today. Today, I mean, this is more, hey, don't push these people to the edge of society. Try to help them out, and
and don't take advantage of them.
Right.
So. And then be fair to rich people and poor people both, to not show favoritism or partiality just because either someone is rich or someone is poor.
Right. And that one, along with many others, is an example that comes across a lot of do this because this is what I do. Is Yahweh tells them that, because we know Yahweh is not a respecter of persons, so neither should you be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Yahweh doesn't have hate in his heart, neither should you, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the next one would say.
Yeah. And not to avenge, that's a tough one. We all want to be John Wayne and go take matters into our own hands, and they did too. But it says in there not to avenge.
I think this might be a specific kind of avenge,
Maybe,
because there was an event wherein you could avenge.
Sure, and it was very specific about that.
Right. There's a specific, I guess I would say the specific avenging is spelled out. When you can avenge, it's spelled out. Otherwise, no avenge.
Yes, yeah, you just can't take it on your own because you're mad about something necessarily to take a vengeance.
Right. The only other time I can think of this is someone murders your family member, and now you've become the avenger of blood. And then it's a race to the free city. Yeah.
It's a foot race, literally. And then
wait, what was that last one?
Oh, did we skip that one? Love your neighbor as yourself. Kind of a big one there.
Yeah, very important.
And we're going to talk about that again.
Why are you throwing these New Testament verses?
I know, New Testament. I thought that was in the New Testament.
Yeah.
And it goes on, no witchcraft.
Right. And I think, witchcraft is pretty bad. Have fair scales.
No
what
child.
Is that? What does fair scales mean?
That means that when you're buying grain from me, that I might be tempted to lighten my scale, and you think you're buying 1 pound, and I'm selling 10 ounces, and telling you, hey, that's a pound,
right?
And ripping you off.
Yeah, people would adjust their weights when they would measure out their money and their goods.
And then when my friend comes by, then I give him 2 pounds and call it 1 pound.
Right.
Because he's my friend.
Yeah. He's saying be fair, people.
Yeah. And once again, no child sacrifice. We saw that last time.
That's a good point. Honor Elohim in your sex life.
And that was talked about last time as well. And the clean and unclean food. And he definitely keeps going over some of these same concepts. So this abortion is murder. Jake, does it come out and explicitly say this and use these words?
It does not say specifically the words abortion is murder.
Do you think it is fair to infer?
I know I infer it from what we hear in this section. So why don't you explain the section that we're saying refers to this?
Yeah. So this would be it here. Where it specifically says in 19, Yahweh said to Moses, speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, be holy because I am holy. Wait, I think we skipped something here. So how did this happen?
I don't think we put the...
Oh, we didn't put that in there.
Verse in.
Maybe did we have it in the last one?
Here,
so
I'll pull it up here. It's... Doodly-doo. Yeah. It was also in the last one, but then it hits again here in Leviticus 20. It says, I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given of his seed unto Molech to defile my sanctuary and to profane my holy name. Verse 2. Again, because he said it before, right? You shall say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that gives any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. So that's the part we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this passing their children through the fire to Molech. And we see that, we see that in a couple different ways in our society today. One of them is this abortion situation.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a stretch to say, because worshiping Moloch involved burning your baby, or your child,
right?
And so if you're not supposed to do it to a child, the preborn child is still a child,
Right.
and I think that's our argument, and that's what it seems real cut and dry and clear to us, but there
Maybe
are
not to
people
other
that say
people.
that this is not a child and this is tissue,
Right.
which I don't see how you look at this. This is a model of a baby in the womb, and it looks like a human baby, every bit. How do you say that's just a blob?
Right.
So, but people do. But
So
clearly,
yeah, that's the point. It's and many different things can. So Moloch was this false god that they were sacrificing to, and
then I think where you're going is maybe putting words in your mouth, but that is not an old concept. It is still around today, and maybe it looks in like different things. Maybe it's not all just abortion. Maybe it's just turning your child loose on the wild, wild west of social media and just going, "Hey, kid, hope everything works out for you. Do whatever." And
right,
that's kind of like turning your child over to Moloch.
right, turning them over to we get this concept of what false gods are, and we think of some imaginary entity, when really it's an idea that you're turning them over to. So like if you're tied into quote the science, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're following the science, not science but science, then it's the same deal,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's the same. It's an interesting. It's a rabbit trail, but in our world in the last 2 years, you see a lot of people talking about just how sad and depressed, and I walk around and I'm like, well, I'm not sad. I'm not depressed, but there are so many people that are because they are so
Dependent.
are so plugged into all the things that they see, and they believe it all, and they don't have anything else going in their life.
Right. They're dependent on circumstances for their happiness.
Yeah.
And instead of having a relationship with Yah,
They've replaced Yah
their,
with an idol.
right.
And
now that becomes a god.
And they don't even know it or acknowledge it or even maybe have the ability to understand it, quite frankly. So if you were to explain it, it just would all sound like, gobbledygook to them.
Right.
So, but if you've never researched that and see how with these concepts of idolatry is still around. It didn't go away.
Right.
So, all right, and then moving on, what did the Torah say, Jake?
Well, Yahweh said to Moses, "Speak to the entire assembly of Israel and say to them, be holy, because I, Yahweh, your Elohim, am holy." So be holy. Be set apart.
To be set apart, because I am set apart. So, and then we see Yeshua say something very similar in Matthew.
Right. That is why you must be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. So I hear a lot, Matt. We can't be perfect, so don't even.
There was only
we don't
one
need to
perfect.
Try, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's telling you, the perfect one is telling you, be perfect. He's saying you should be trying to not be desecrating yourself.
Yeah, he didn't say give up. It's pointless.
Right.
Don't even try.
Right.
I got this. I'm your Sabbath rest. Yeah. Don't even try.
So don't even try. Right.
But he clearly doesn't say.
And so that's why he says, go and sin no more. Because even though you've been forgiven, don't continue in the sinning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, this part here in 1 Peter 1:16, for it is written, be holy because I am holy. Now, I'll give you a little quiz here. Where's the first time he brings this up? Be holy because I am holy. Do you know the context?
In Peter or in Leviticus?
When Yah first brings this up, be holy because I'm holy.
That's a good question. So you're saying it occurred before Leviticus in this?
Well, it's in Leviticus, but before this portion it shows up. And the context is, I'll give it to you, is eating clean and unclean foods.
Oh, wow.
And he says, be holy for I am holy, when he talks to them about clean and unclean foods.
Yeah. Well, years ago, a friend of mine who I taught with, he was a kind of a quasi preacher, and he talked about the Matthew scripture that we read a second ago about be perfect, as I am perfect, or as the Father is perfect, and he brought that up and would talk about that, and he really he told me one time, he's Matt, I really believe he meant that. And I was like, I didn't know. I don't think he even knew fully what he meant, but he believed that scripture.
Yeah.
And I don't think he interpreted exactly the way we interpret these things today, but he may have been on the right track, and I didn't realize it at the time. So.
Yeah, that's one of those things I look at, and I have to ask myself, would he give you a command that you couldn't do?
Yeah.
And what good father gives his children commands they cannot follow?
Not a good one.
Right.
So.
And then punishes them when they don't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, that you're right about that. And then the Torah continues to go on, and he says here in 18, do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's a good point. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, along with this love your neighbor as yourself stuff, this, to me, this ties in pretty well with something that we get into in some of the Torah apologetic stuff with the difference between it's the clean and unclean, when the Jews would see the Gentiles as unclean people, and then Peter is shown that there is no uncleanness, in people, and he, in terms of who you associate with, right, to share the message, and that's a commandment of men, right? That the Jews could not associate with the Gentiles because they were unclean. That's a commandment of men. Whereas the Torah says, love your neighbor as yourself. And it also says, love the stranger, love the foreigner as yourself. It's the same kind of deal. And so it just completely goes against that whole idea that the Pharisees were trying to push in the New Testament.
Yeah, that's good. And then we see the Matthew version of this, and would you read this?
Sure. Yeshua answered him, love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important commandment. The second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself, as you love yourself. All of Moses' teachings and the prophets depend on these two commandments.
Yeah, and so recently we had somebody, make the argument that this is all we have to do. But, my question to them is, well, define what love your neighbor is in detail. And, to me, this is the Torah that we've been studying here. That's what defines it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just, hey, don't do bad stuff or whatever. Whatever you determine
whatever
that
hurts
bad
my
feelings.
It's whatever hurts my feelings.
That's kind of the way the world seems to have gone.
Right.
And the world seems to be like that
right.
today.
When we know that sometimes it's a loving act to hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
The truth can hurt sometimes.
It's unloving to lie to someone and
right.
not tell them.
Right.
So, week 30.
Kedoshim.
Holy ones.
Leviticus 19-20.
And we appreciate you stopping by to look at these Torah portions with us. And once again, if you have not read these Torah portions, we suggest you read them. And anyway, we do appreciate you stopping by. Anything else, Jake?
Just one more thing on that last verse. Sometimes you'll see it written as all the law and the prophets hang from these two commandments. And you can't just take a bolt cutter and snip them off of there. They're attached to it.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it's important to remember.
Well, we appreciate you stopping by and taking a minute out of your time to listen. And we appreciate if you subscribe, if you like it, if you share this content with other people. And, but we don't do this because we're seeking fame, glory, or fortune, but we want to help just be messengers of the truth.
Yep. Just pointing to the mail. We're just reading the mail.
That's right. That's right. Well, this is Matt
and Jake.
signing off.